Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about how to expand your restaurant concept. And we're going to come at it from a two-prong approach. One, from the restaurant operator's point of view, and then also from a restaurant broker's point of view, commercial real estate agent's point of view. So for this, I've got Kyle Inserra. Kyle's done both. He's been a restaurant operator as well as a commercial real estate broker that specializes in restaurants. And he works around Connecticut and New York. So maybe Cincinnati too, I don't know. But he gives us some great tips. He's also written a book about never lease a shitty restaurant space. So he's got a great sense of humor. He's a great guy. I've known him for a long time. So make sure you check out the video. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Joe Killinger. I've been a real estate entrepreneur for over 20 years. And I use this channel to help you find your path in real estate. So I bring people like Kyle in. We talk about all the tips and tricks to be successful. And it's worked pretty well so far. So it's worked very well for Kyle, actually. So make sure you tune in, give us a like, and if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. What a guest I've got today, Kyle Inserra. Kyle's been a top restaurant broker for a long time in the New York area. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me, man.
How's the restaurant business?
It's cranking. It is, here in New York, and I actually live just north of New York in Connecticut. And I mean, they're busy. They're packed. Everyone's looking for sites, and, it feels like almost the pandemic never happened.
Really?
People are excited to be out. Restaurants, I think they got a little smarter. I think a little bit more tactical in their approach to the real estate. But thank God it seems like everything's back to quote unquote normal.
Can you find any second gen locations right now?
Man, I think I tell everybody the same thing. We can find them, you just don't want them. Nothing, right? I mean, it's the same thing kind of everywhere. But it's funny, we were just talking about Corey Zelnick, my partner, and he says if in New York City, if you can vent it, you can rent it. So I think landlords are more and more open-minded to in the past where they maybe were against restaurant use. I think they're a little more open-minded now.
Yeah, it's good operators is what it comes down to, right?
Totally.
Run your business right. It's a great business.
Yeah, that's and when I started in shifting from being a restaurant owner into commercial real estate, my thing was like, man, I learned so much in being, hands-on, to how to position yourself as an ideal tenant and a good business owner and make money, right? And that's what it all comes down to. So many restaurants just lose focus that this is a business. Everybody else is going to look at it that way. It may be a passion project for you, but if you want anybody to pay attention in terms of anything meaningful, they're going to want to make sure you make money in our strong brand. Yeah,
it's a great business, but so many people think, oh, I'm a great cook, I'm going to open a restaurant. A little bit more to it than that. It's inventory. I've got horror stories for you from operators that probably shouldn't have been in the business. But then we've got clients out here that they've done very, very well. Even during the pandemic, they adjusted and made money. Not like they were normally making, but it's going to be you find a way, right? Well, today we're going to be talking about expanding your restaurant concept. And I think, coming from, we're very fortunate that you start off at Morgan Stanley, you're coming from the money side, and then you got into the restaurant side, and now you're a commercial broker. So I really see you bring a lot of value to our subscribers. So I'm thankful you would take the time to do this today. But, as a broker, as a broker and a restaurateur, what should I be looking for? If I'm looking to expand my concept, what are my first steps?
Prepare, right? Like it's a lengthier process than most people think. And, when brokers are looking at, let's say you're representing a landlord and you have this great restaurant space. I think they're going to be reaching out to the groups that, are probably more established in the area. And the assumption is that they're ready to expand. And I think, from the broker's perspective, those are the groups you want to work with, right? Are you ready do you have the capital to move? Do you have a strong brand presence? Is the product good? And on the restaurant side, I think it's like, I always say that there's a test. like from the operator perspective, like, hey, can I take 2 weeks off from this place with nobody calling me and everything running the same? And if I can't, I'm not ready. Like,
Yeah.
and that includes texting. I don't want anybody, hey, what time is the beer delivery supposed to get here? Are the payroll checks coming in today? Whatever it is, if there's not an answer for every one of those steps, you're not going to be able to handle another location, and I think it's often led by this belief that, hey, we're going to make more money, right?
Yeah.
We're going to open a location, more money, but there's a lot to be said for a small group. So I think having all your ducks in a row, reassessing your business plan, figuring out your budget, and, all the other stuff that on the business side, take your
Yeah.
head out of the kitchen and out of the operations for a moment and look, a little bit higher level, and really assess what your needs are and if you can handle the extra workload.
What about on the restaurateur side, finding team members? How
Oof.
easy is that, right? I mean, that's gotta be so hard right now.
It is, man, it is like people I know in the industry and even like prospects that I speak to, it's like the second sentence out of their mouth that they can't find. Hey, how's everything going? It'd be great if I could find a insert, any restaurant
Yeah.
job title here. It's, I think it's been a rude awakening call. And in a lot of ways, I think had to happen because there were so many not great qualities or factors in working the restaurant business, right? Long hours. You're eating standing up, you're working weekends, you're working holidays, no benefits, no retirement plan, no vacation, no paid vacation. And I think the world said, let's not do that anymore. So I
Right.
think the folks that actually can reassess their business model and offer that type of stuff shouldn't have any problems hiring staff.
Really. Yeah. I talked to, there was a guy here in LA and he has a great Irish pub here. And I'm talking to him. He goes, "Yeah, I want to open a location in New Orleans." I'm like, "New Orleans? Why so far away?"
Oh
He goes,
God.
"Oh, I got a good partner down there." And I'm like, "Okay, it's a friend of my wife's, and I know I've known him for years." And I talked to him not even 4 months later, and that place in New Orleans had closed down already.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, we got it all opened. Inventory showed up." He goes, "It started right away with the new partner. $1 for you, $2 for me. $1 for you. You got to have the systems in
Oh
place."
my God, man. Yeah,
Yeah, he
it's
didn't have the right systems in place.
yeah, you don't have the systems in place, you don't have a partnership agreement, just
Yeah,
when you just said his wife's whatever cousin
yeah.
friend, or a
You
chill
knew
just
what
went
was
down my
coming,
spine.
didn't you?
Oh, dude, I like it's so crazy, right? Like it's well documented how difficult the business is. It's
Yeah,
well documented. Don't hire family and friends, and
right.
it's just at some point you deserve it, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
the people told you not to do it, but you were sold otherwise. So, I think the best operators I've seen would never assess the situation. That's not even a consideration.
it's tough.
Yeah, it's
It's
tough.
and as an agent, if you're representing a company that wants to grow, that should be a question you ask the restaurant operator. If they've got one or two locations and they want to keep going, how are they going to staff up?
Yeah.
It's because you got to think how you're going to look to that landlord if they end up having to close down in a few months.
It's interesting that is a great question to ask because I think, and I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, whose business it is to like assess restaurants like workflow and their staffing
Mhm.
models. It's traditionally based on sales, right? 33% of your sales should be allocated to your payroll. And you figured out staffing wise roughly what you need. But he's like, well, what if it's not number of people, but if it's how many tickets, like how many people can we serve with these tickets? And he has a sort of algorithm how he breaks it down. And he's been able to cut restaurant payrolls by 10%,
Oh,
by this is our, dinner doesn't start till 5. Why do I have my whole staff coming in at 5 o'clock? Maybe they come in at 4, at 6, at 7, stagger them a little bit and other things that he thinks of. And I think you really have to remove your old restaurant brain and put in a new one and look at everything differently now and say,
right.
hey, how do we make this work?
Yeah. The locations, if you're a broker and you want to get out there and help a new franchisor, I mean, that doesn't change. I mean, it's still, you want to be best traffic, best walk score, best everything, right? You're still seeing
Yeah,
that with all these.
I think it depends a lot on the concept. I think it's the franchisees are a little bit more of a hand-holding process because a large majority of them haven't been down this road before. So you want to put them in the best traditional location to succeed. And, depending on the type of concept, I think that, it's funny, we have talked about this at the show we have coming up. I think the 3 L's of real estate have changed, right? It used to be a joke: location, 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 right?
Right.
I think it's landlord, lease, and location now.
Yeah.
Because I think that relationship to me is, and how the lease is structured, it just put a huge light, like during COVID, put a huge light on that portion of the business, the relationship with the landlord and what your lease looks like.
Right.
And people took so many things for granted. They were going to be covered, and it turns out you weren't. So, yeah, I think it's, you could not be on the corner of Main and Main and still have a very successful business, but you're going to spend a lot more money on marketing, trying to find, people trying to find you, or you pay, right? You pay to be in the great location, get the foot traffic, get the great parking lot, get the strong co-tenancy. I think it's that simple and that hard at the same time.
Are you guys seeing changes in leases? Are restaurant or landlords saying to you guys when you bring a tenant in, the restaurant tenant in, hey, if you don't make it after year 3, I just want the keys back. You're just out.
I haven't
doing that kind of stuff to the leases, or how are they adjusting the leases right now?
I haven't seen that. New York is a little bit of a different animal when it comes to that stuff, but I would imagine in some other markets, maybe some mom and pop landlords having that conversation. But again, I think if you're not seeing eye to eye with your landlord and understand that, hey, look, this is what I can afford. Let's work things out together. If things go sideways, I want you to understand my business. I understand your position. I think it's all about that communication, and, here in New York, the good guy clause gets exercised every once in a while. But I think it still comes down to that relationship and treating it like a real business partnership. That's the real business partnership to me.
And something that we're seeing here in LA, Kyle, is that we've got landlords that they're not being realistic yet. Inflation is hitting these restaurants, and they want to open, and they still want these big dollars. The landlords still want the big dollars, and they're like, listen, my food costs they're through the roof. My employment, especially here in California, the employee cost is through the roof. Delivery cost, everything is up, right?
Oh yeah.
But the landlords haven't, and they're not giving in on a lot of, and this is mostly not so much on the restaurants yet, but on the retail, they're not giving in yet. So I think it's going to be an education process by the brokers that have the landlords and say, listen, this is what's really going on. This is the true market, and this is what's happening in the marketplace. So these restaurateurs coming in, or these retailers coming in, you need to have an understanding of that.
I mean, you just as well as anybody, like it's worth what somebody will pay for it. I think that they can want, $300,000 a year for the space. It depends what somebody's. I never understood that. I just never understood, like, well, this is what I want, and they come to an agreement, and then it doesn't work out, and they blame the restaurant. Oh, dude, I tell you, so I understand it's a tricky relationship, and we make a living trying to figure that out, but it's definitely more so a partnership than a lot of other restaurant partnerships. Let's put it that way.
That's exactly it. That's the mentality, and the agents that are out there representing these people, they need to understand that and have that conversation. Like, this is a real partnership. If you're going to gouge them right now, who's to say they're going to make it? Then you're going to have an empty space, and we're going to have to do this all over again.
Yeah.
And so, it's been something, but we've got a situation right now where we've got a great retail location, and we've got a great national tenant, and the landlords come back and say, I want a personal guarantee. And and they're like, are you kidding me?
On top of the corporate guarantee.
Yeah.
Or corporate financial. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell? They want somebody to be on the hook. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk to them. I mean, there's a lot of, so our agent is going back, and they're working a bunch of stuff trying to get people together, but it's a little difficult right now. Are you seeing that in your market still, or is, LA is a little bit of a different animal sometimes?
Yeah, I think there's, when it's about money, there's always a way to figure it out.
Right.
Like make somebody comfortable. And I think, whether you put up a large security deposit and burn it down, that type of deal, or, I don't want to reiterate, but it's like, hey, I'm going to be your partner here. You want to put me on the hook for this? It's a business.
Yeah.
Things could go sideways. We learned a couple of years ago that this could be shut down in a minute, right? So I can't put myself at that type of risk. And yeah, it's interesting how that dynamic is developing and changing market by market. But yeah, I think it's still going to come down to those conversations. Like, look, I can make you comfortable some way, but I
Yeah.
can't put my house on the line here for in case
Yeah.
my
And
hamburger
that's
joint
again
goes out of
the
business.
education process by the good brokers are going to know how to do the education process, right? And that's how you're going to get these deals done.
Yeah,
Um, Completely forgot what I was going to ask you next. I had a great question too, Kyle. Damn it!
it'll come
What do
to you
you
when will.
see with inflation continuing? I'm going to pick your brain here a little bit. Now
Mm.
I know you come from the finance side too, so inflation and how's that the future of restaurants? What do you see it's going to be happening over the next 18 months or so?
I think it's going to impact a lot of. It's already impacting a lot of decisions. Hopefully, I think it's more than just raising prices, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think that's what you have to do. If it
yeah,
was couches, if it was cars, that's what prices go up. You can't take it on the chin due to economic factors. But I think you need to look at other components of your business.
yeah,
I always use the analogy of like, well, we can't take the, veal chop off the menu. This couple, they love the veal chop. We're not going to take that off the menu.
yeah,
Well, they don't love it enough because we're looking at the product mix report and we're not selling enough. It's a high. So you got to go through things and you got to stay in business, right?
yeah,
So there's so many more opportunities. You can jar your sauce. You can offer online cooking classes. You can do offsite stuff. You can do more offsite. You can have a virtual brand in your restaurant. You can host more private events. There's a lot of different options out there. It's just you can't keep looking at the same playbook.
yeah,
That's what I think the thing is they're like, well, it says here I should have 33% and my cost of goods should be 28%. And yeah, well, you know what, dude, that just changed. So now what are you
yeah.
gonna do? It's
A business evolves. I mean, look at how
yeah,
it's evolved since the pandemic. And it will continue to do so. People are going to find a way to really make it work. I mean, that's what entrepreneurs do, right? You became a restaurateur because you're a entrepreneur, and so you have to find the path of least resistance to make the most revenue.
yeah. I mean, to some extent, and I don't want any restaurants to kill me, but it's like you're not immune to, economic factors that affect other businesses as well.
Right?
Yeah, I know a case of cheese was $80 last year, and now it's 120. You can't control that. You
Right.
can only control it to the extent that you put less cheese or charge more for the pizza,
Yeah.
right? Like complaining about it is not going to get you anywhere. You just got to figure it out and get back out there or shut the doors. Those are the
Yeah.
options, right? And that's it sounds harsh, but when you run a business, that's the way it's got to be. Whether it's a real estate firm like yours, or restaurant, or a car dealership,
Yeah.
you got to manage your margins, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of restaurants feel like they were immune to that for a while. I feel like,
Yeah. It's any business, right? You've
yeah,
got an option: either evolve or die.
yeah,
There's no middle of the road. And I think the brokerage side of it, we really see it because we see a lot of people now that we've had since 2011. The market's been going up and up and up, right? A lot of people, made a lot of money, but they haven't been doing the fundamentals. So now, if it slows down, what are they going to do? Because they haven't been doing the fundamentals.
yeah.
There's guys like you, Eddie, everybody with CREI Summit. They're putting content out that have really rode this wave of marketing, and those are the winners. Those are the people who are going to come out ahead.
It's a conversation I have almost daily, whether it's online or with somebody in person. It's all marketing and branding, right? It's
Yeah,
all how else are we going to get the tenant on the phone? How else are we going to position ourselves in front of a different broker that we want to work for, right? It's
yeah,
our digital resume and the work that we do. We can say how many deals we've done and how many millions of square feet we've leased, but at the end of the day, who are you as a person matters more than ever.
yeah, yeah.
And as a
It
business, right?
does.
Like the business personalities matter a lot now too.
I got a brokerage question. If I'm a broker and I want to get in and deal with franchises, how do I just start cold calling them, hitting them on LinkedIn? What's the best path?
I'm a big fan of this. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do to get a hold of these guys. I DM them on Instagram.
Do you?
I don't DM them a pitchy thing. I just go through all the groups that I like. Franchise and independent is basically the same practice. and I say, really love your concept. Good luck or whatever. We were just there, really love it. Love the burger, love the salad, whatever it is. And then I don't do anything. I don't do anything at all. And then if they reply to me, I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I just say, okay, who's the chief operation officer, head of franchise development? And then I say, hey, I was just talking to somebody on Instagram. They don't know, it wasn't really a full conversation. You guys have any thoughts or plans on expanding? That's it. And I don't think people want to be pitched via email. I don't think if you get a restaurateur on a cold call, it probably means he has nothing else to do. It's not going to be your best bet. But I think speaking to them in terms of their language, like, hey, just so you guys opened up in LA, any plans to go anywhere else, like that you're paying attention and you're not just spamming them, makes a big difference. So I rely heavily on my CRM, heavily on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I set a Google alert for restaurant news. So those three things are kind of really what keeps you in the know. And then just, they want a personalized approach, because how many emails, how many cold calls are they getting? If you can stand out in a way, then I think that's a huge benefit.
Absolutely. Come with value. You need to know it. That's the thing. How many of those do you send? Do you just sit down every day and, get a glass of wine at night and I send out 20 DMs? Something like that?
I add 20 prospects to my list every day. So at 8:30, 9:30 every day, I add new prospects. And, it never, it's, 1 out of 100 we'll get back to. But I think, that, and then all the other marketing stuff, because I think what doesn't resonate, I think like traditional brokerages are thinking like, well, you're not on the phone or you're not out knocking doors or, pressing palms, but content is out there and just not so many people respond to it. Right. But they see it. And I think that generates more leads than actually the direct reach out.
Yeah. I think if you're bringing value, they see it and they know that you're bringing value, and all of a sudden they've got a question or they're thinking about doing something. They're like, this Kyle dude puts out a lot of content on this, and it's something I want to talk to him about it, because it seems like you're out there constantly, and it does make a big difference. But all right, Kyle, I got one last question. I know you're busy, but robotics in the restaurant industry, how do you think that's really going to play out?
I'm all for robotics.
Yeah.
And any kind of technology that either makes your business more efficient or saves you money.
Yeah.
If it's just there to be there, this whole thing of analyzing tech stacks and automations and robotics is necessary, right? People don't want to work, and I don't blame a lot of people don't want to work in the restaurant business. It's not easy. And, people have business to run. So as per our conversation before, you got to do what you got to do. If you can get a robot to make the French fries, fantastic. I don't know about those clumsy things delivering the sushi all around the restaurant. Maybe that doesn't pan out, but the fries and the burger stuff seems to be all right. And, I think we still have a long, I think we're touching on the jets and stuff. We're not quite there, but I think it's all real. I think it's real. And I think it's worth taking a look at for sure.
The state of California is trying to pass, or maybe they did pass it already, where they built this panel of people that are going to be regulating the fast food out in California. And they're going to take the minimum wage to $22 an hour. And, it's if you have to really dig into it to see how it's going to affect, but it can be painful for some people, and, it's going to drive food costs up, or they're going to have to do something with like these robotics. I think it's going to fast track it.
We're seeing it already. I'm one of the sponsors of my podcast. This is Pop Menu. And they offer a service it's an AI automated service. So essentially a robot, because, people still call restaurants. So you don't have enough staff to get to it. And there's some crazy statistic where like almost 50% of people, when they call a restaurant for a reservation or to find out if there's outdoor seating, that kind of thing, if they don't get an answer, they're going to move on to another restaurant.
Oh yeah. So
you can now set up this thing to recognize thousands of different commands with your voice. So like, hey, interested in a catering package or, private event at your restaurant. Do you guys have that? Your voice, the owner's voice, will come on and say, yeah, we have private events. If you're interested in learning more about the private events, head to this website or leave a message, whatever it is. So Yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary and smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, evolution.
Totally.
These businesses are going to evolve.
That's right.
And, at, 20 some dollars an hour plus payroll taxes and insurance. And, it's going to be hard to make it work for a lot of those companies.
Yeah,
And, but they'll figure out a way,
that's right.
they'll,
The good
they have
ones
to.
will, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's one good thing about this country, right? We always figure out a way to make it happen.
That's
But
it.
all right, Kyle, let's tell us about your podcast. How do we see it?
So National Restaurant Owners Podcast comes out every week. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, and we put the videos up on YouTube.
Okay.
And then we have the CRE marketing, CRE school, which is out once a week. It's a series of 10 episodes per guest, 5-minute episodes. So they get a 10 episode series. That's just kind of getting started. And also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Okay. If you want to send me those links, I'll put them at the bottom of this video. How about
Oh,
that?
awesome. Yeah.
I'm also
for
going to
sure.
put Kyle does have a book. I'm going to say this, Never Lease a Shitty Restaurant Space.
There we
And
go.
I'm going to put the link to that. And so you can check that out. And Kyle, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. I'll see you next week.
Next week. Yeah. In a week, we'll be dancing
Wild.
together in New Orleans at the CREI Summit. So
That's it. I'm bringing my beads.
yeah, there you go. Start swinging. All right. Well, thank you folks for watching today. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. And Kyle, thank you for coming on today.
Absolutely, man.
All right.